Welcome to Mr. Chalk's Revision Tips. In this video, we will look at plant adaptations to water availability, Xyrophytes and Hydrophytes. So, in plants, up to 10% of the water is lost by transpiration, and it's actually lost through the cuticle of the plant. So some plants have particularly thick, waxy cuticles to help minimize water loss. So this adaptation is common in most evergreen plants and helps them survive both hot and dry summers and cold winters when water can be hard to absorb from hard or frozen ground. So a thick, waxy cuticle is, like we've just said, it helps stop excess water loss. Another adaptation are sunken stomatas. So many xyrophytes have stomata located in pits, right, which reduce air movement, producing a microclimate of still humid moist air that reduces water vapor moving out via a potential gradient. We can have a reduced number of stomata. So many xyrophytes have a reduced number of stomata, which reduces their water loss by transpiration, but also helps to reduce the gas exchange capabilities. And a reduced number of leaves. So by reducing the number of leaves, you also reduce the surface area. So water loss can be greatly reduced by this way. So the leaves of conifers are reduced to thin needles. So these narrow needles have a greatly reduced surface area to volume ratio, minimizing the amount of water that is lost via transpiration. You can have hairy leaves. So some xyrophytes have very hairy leaves that create a microclimate of still humid air, reducing the water vapor potential gradient and minimizing the loss of water by transpiration. Leaves can be curled. So curled leaves is another adaptation which greatly reduces the water loss by transpiration, especially in combination with other adaptations. It is the growth of curled or rolled leaves. This confines all the stomata within a microenvironment of still humid air or reduces diffusion of water vapor from the stomata. Succulent plants store water in specialized tissue in their stem and runs. They get the name because, unlike other plants, they often have swollen or fleshy appearance as the tissues that store water expand. And we can have leaf loss. So some plants prevent water loss through their leaves by simply losing the leaves when water is not available. So if we're looking at what the three types of plants are, they're going to be hydrophytes, mesophytes and xyrophytes. If we're looking at what hydrophytes are, they are water plants. Xyrophytes are plants living in dry conditions, so mesophytes are plants living under normal conditions. So if we just look at xyrophytes again to start off with. So a xyrophyte is a species of plant that has adaptations which enable it to survive in an environment with very little liquid water, such as desert or where there's ice or snow. Xyrophytes adaptations increase water intake and limit the loss to store water efficiently. So, like we've said, they can have reduced leaves, they can have rolled leaves, they can have a thick waxy cuticle, their stomata can be in pits, they can have a low growth rate, so low growing plants are less exposed to the winds and more likely to be in shaded areas, so reducing water loss. And they can have a cam physiology. So plants with a cam physiology open their stomata at night, reducing water loss via evaporation. So we're looking to give some examples of xyrophytes. You're looking at conifers, some sorts of grasses, and at cacti. So if we're looking at how the hairs or spines reduce the water loss, it's important to talk about it causes an increased layer of warmth around the leaf, trapping in the water molecules. And xyrophytes have a thick wax cuticle that helps by helping to minimise water loss by minimising that rate of transpiration. Hydrophytes. So hydrophytes are those plants which live in water and adjust with their surroundings. They either remain fully submerged in the water or can be just floating on top. So most of their body parts remain under the water. So things like trapper, locust, etc., water lilies. So they don't need to worry about losing an excess amount of water. So if we're looking at water retention, so because aquatic plants are largely submerged in water at all times, there is no need for water retention like in other types of plants. They have flat leaves. So they have flat leaves because some aquatic plants float on the surface of the water. So most aquatic plants have flat leaves which act like a big flotation device. They can have feathery roots, so hydrophytes are supported by the water as compared to the roots and the stem structure. So most hydrophytes have roots that are quite small and feathery and extend not all that far into the water. And finally, most of them have air sacs. So many hydrophytes have air sacs or chambers that enable the plant to float on the surface. So if we're looking at why it's important for in the surface plants to go and float on water, key things to think about is that there is a lack of sunlight under the water and plants need sunlight for photosynthesis. Hydrophytes have very thin or no waxy cuticle. Why? It's because hydrophytes have a constant supply of water, so don't need to reduce how quickly water is lost from the leaves. And finally, why do hydrophytes have a reduced structure to other plants? It's because there's no need for a specialised water transport system because there's always plenty of water available.
Thanks for watching.